Great. I'll just get us started. So yeah, my name's Madeleine. I will introduce myself a little more thoroughly shortly, but basically I work on the outreach team Where There Be Dragons and support students and their families in learning about how we traveled, the places that we travel to help folks pick the right program for them. And at Dragons, we really try to offer the most educational and culturally immersive travel programs for students who are looking for summer programs abroad or gap year programs. And so we'll be talking primarily about China and Taiwan today. Mostly our China and Taiwan summer programs. We do also run a gap semester program that's 3 months long for high school graduates. And that program goes to both China and Taiwan. So if that's something that you're looking at, we will be talking about those regions today. So that's what you're here for. And let me see, you all can see my screen now, all right? I'll assume that's a yes. And continue. So yeah, my name's Madeleine. Like I mentioned, I work as an outreach coordinator for Where There Be Dragons. My background is as an instructor for our programs. I started instructing around 2017, 2018 in China. And then I have also worked some of our programs in Taiwan and Southeast Asia. So I've led our China summer program before, as well as China semesters and different partnership programs in Taiwan. And then, Shuier, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Madeleine. Hi, everyone. I'm Shuier, and I'm the Asia Program Director at Dragons. And similarly to Madeleine, I started off as a Dragons instructor back in 2016 and leading trips in China mainly, and for about 3-year period, and then expanded my territory to leading programs in Southeast Asia, and eventually became the China Program Director right before the pandemic started. And then that got stopped, but then because of our programming, I was brought to Taiwan to support. So luckily, I was living in Taiwan for the last 3 years. So Taiwan is a second home to me. That's why I'm also here today to present our China, Taiwan summer programs and semester programs, and to share some insights on the differences, similarities to prospective students. So that's where we are.
So it's offered to international people from all over the world, but I'm assuming most people are
in the United States.
Sorry, was someone have a question there? Well, if you have a question, you can always raise your hand or put it in the chat. Just big picture, a little bit about dragons. So the origin of our name comes from kind of historically, I think kind of in the medieval ages, primarily European map makers when they were making maps, they would draw dragons to represent lands unknown. So places that were kind of like off the map or places that they didn't know. And so today, when we use the term like Where There Be Dragons, it really means exploring beyond what's known or what's comfortable or what's familiar to you. And so when we engage with difference and with the unfamiliar and sometimes uncomfortable, we discover new parts of ourselves and the world. And so that's the history of our name. Where There Be Dragons is really a mouthful to say, so we normally will refer to it as dragons. And a little bit about Dragons as an organization. So we've been around for 31 years as of 2024. And our programs actually began in China and have expanded since across the world. And so we run programs in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and North America. And we really run the most immersive programs that we can, work with really wonderful instructors, travel to communities where we have long-lasting relationships. And every summer and semester, we run a limited number of programs to ensure that every one of our trips is thoughtful, responsible, and designed with intention. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we offer travel programs for high school and college age students, small group programs led by expert instructors. And we offer 2, 4, and 6 week summer programs. The large majority of those summer programs are 4 weeks long, including the China summer program and the Taiwan summer program. Both of those are 4 weeks long, running from June 28th to July 25th. And the majority of those programs are for high school age students. We do offer a limited selection of summer programs for college age students, but those are separate from our high school summer programs. And then, like I mentioned, we do also run 3-month gap year semesters. And so those are programs such as our China and Taiwan semester that are for students who have graduated from high school, ages 17 through 22, and those run in the fall and in the spring, have optional college credit. Wonderful. Let me try to get over to the next slide. So just a little bit about, what makes Dragons unique. A couple of things that I will point out. Unfiltered travel. I think that really is, we want our students to experience like authentic, local, real realities. And so often that's beautiful. Sometimes it's complex, sometimes it's challenging, but really want to expose our students to places and people that are like true representations as much as possible of the places that we travel and experience day-to-day life through doing things like, we'll talk about this more, but like homestays and rugged travel and language learning so that we can really immerse ourselves. And so it's much less of a package tour and much more of an immersion. Custom crafted. This is kind of my favorite part in talking about our programs. And in my background as an instructor, I really enjoy working with Dragons because our programs are, no two programs are the same. Instructors are given a lot of like freedom and trust to develop programs that they're passionate about, excited about. Instructors often will bring local contacts into a program or do activities where they have connections to a community, for example. I've brought students to a tea farm and a tea factory that I had a relationship with before I started working with Dragons. And so being able to do things like that really makes like lets our instructors shine and makes no two programs the same. We're not, as instructors being handed an itinerary and told to like, go do this. And then also once they're on the ground, like all of our itineraries, we call them tentative itineraries and flexible itineraries. And you'll hear that language a lot because our programs change once they're on the ground. Sometimes that's in response to need. Sometimes there's a mudslide down the road and the bus doesn't come. And so we have to be practical and be flexible. And sometimes that's in response to really neat activities. We are in a homestay and we get invited to join a wedding or a local festival. Sometimes we're able to be flexible and kind of adjust our itineraries to take advantage of opportunities, to take advantage of things that students are really interested in. So they're pretty flexible itineraries as well. We work with pretty amazing instructors. A good number, I'd say majority of our instructors for our programs are local to the places that we travel in, and others who are not are pretty locally fluent, speak the language, have that cultural background. And so really folks who are experts in the locations that they leave and, will give you that direct and personal connection to the places that you visit. People like Shuier or Tindy, who's another instructor who's here today. Really wonderful, well thought out teams of instructors. So 3 instructors and 12 students. And so I think that's really special for the students to be able to be in this small group, allows them to form bonds with both their fellow students and also instructors. And traveling in small groups really just allows us to do a lot of the things that we do. If we were traveling in a really huge group, we couldn't take public transportation. We couldn't do things like homestays without overwhelming a place. So it's really nice to travel in those small groups for those reasons, and also for just like personalized support and, you know, intentional kind of like cultivating that group dynamic. And then finally, the last thing I'll talk about is that our programs are unplugged. So our programs are offline, just to allow students to really be fully present. And so it's kind of this idea of swapping out your phone for, you know, connection and presence, to be there with your homestay family, with your friends. And yeah, for a lot of our students, it might be the only month or 3 months in their lives that they are not connected to their phone. And a lot of our students report at the end that was one of the like most like one of the best parts of the program for them, was kind of that disconnection from technology for a little bit. And that doesn't mean that students are completely disconnected from technology. You know, we travel with an iPad, and I would say on a summer program, somewhere between like 7 to 10-ish days, like students will have an opportunity to contact home. And then also students, we have a student travel block called the Yak board, where students and instructors are posting on regularly. And obviously, in case of emergency, students and parents can be in touch with each other pretty immediately. Instructors carry phones, are in close contact with our administrative folks in the office for that. So that's a little bit about Dragons and how it is kind of unique. And then, yeah, the last thing I will talk about, and then I'll pass this over to Shuier. The last thing I'll talk about is our students. A lot of people are like, what are Dragon students like? And our students come from lots of different backgrounds. I would say, you know, like students have different ways that they come into our programs. For our China and Taiwan programs in particular, a lot of them have a background of taking Mandarin, but we don't require a certain level of Mandarin for students to attend, though we do require students have little or no background, that they're enthusiastic about learning. And we'll talk more about kind of what language looks like, language lessons look like, because we'll differentiate with different language levels on our programs. But often students will come with some of that language background, really wanting to kind of like be in person, curious about the place, wanting to use that language and like be in that culture and like really be immersed there. So they're, you know, students who are curious and wanting to do one of our programs, you know, folks who are eager to learn more about the world and themselves and wanting something that will challenge and support them in doing things like homestays and engaging with communities in a genuine and meaningful way. And so most of our students come from the US, but we welcome international students. And I would say on any given program term, 15 to 20% of our students are international. And yeah, we see a lot of students from Europe, Asia, Latin America. We don't require that students have like prior experience with travel abroad or trekking or language. I think our programs are not necessarily for everyone, but if this kind of travel is exciting and appealing to you and you're curious about it, then I think it's a great fit. All right, I'm gonna pass the mic off to Shuier to share a little bit in more specific terms about China and Taiwan. So I will.
All right, thank you very much, Madeleine. Thank you, Madeleine. And Madeleine spoke about who we are as an organization and what we do, and some more generic traits about our programs. And now I'm going to dive into some more specifics about our programming in China and Taiwan. So as Madeleine was saying, about 30 years ago, Dragons had its very first program in China. So as you can imagine, China holds a very special place in Dragons, and we have a very big and strong network of communities, homestay families, language teachers, ISP mentors, and the curriculum resources to support our programming here. Over the years, with the contribution from our instructors and the communities that we work with, our programming has gone through countless iterations to create meaningful growth and lasting memories for our students. But despite the changes, learning Mandarin remains the main theme of our programming here. And after a 4-year pause due to the pandemic, and we have already started leading some programs here this past winter, and actually with Tindy who's on this core. And we are extremely excited to come back this summer and bring back our flagship China language intensive program this summer. And for Taiwan, we started our programming in Taiwan about 5 years ago to add another Mandarin-speaking location on our program map. And Taiwan's rich and layered history and its complicated identity offer students a unique perspective on Mandarin learning. Again, after a 3-year pause during the pandemic, we successfully returned to Taiwan last summer with 3 language intensive programs running simultaneously. We will continue to develop our programs in Taiwan to provide students and families more Mandarin intensive options in the region. So that's like the general overview of China and Taiwan, about how we started programming there and the general overview. So next slide, please. All right, so 2 of the most commonly asked questions when we're talking about programs in Taiwan and China are, what are the differences between the programs and which one should I choose? I will start by sharing some of the similarities, and then we will talk about some of the differences. So what are the same? So first of all, the program structures are the same. So on each summer program in either China or Taiwan, we follow this structure. The student, as soon as they arrive, they will go through an orientation, which the instructors will share information, cultural do's and don'ts, language, to orient the students to the place they are in. And then followed by orientation, there will be the first homestay, and followed by that, there will be an excursion, and then followed by that, the second homestay. And afterwards, it will be student-led expedition. And then before the students go home, we do a transference, which is a dedicated time for the group to come together to basically reflect on what we've done the past month and to really savor the moments for the past months and think about the lessons that we can take away with us and into our future. So that's the general structure for the language intensive programs in China and Taiwan that we follow. And this structure is also basically designed with the course progression in mind. Basically, there are different stages. For example, the first one is skill information delivering, skill acquisition. So this will happen during orientation when information were basically handed to students. And then they will have opportunities to practice those information they were given during the first homestay. And then again, continuing on practicing learning in the excursion. And then during the second homestay, they will feel an increased independence learned and tried through those experiences they've had already built on, which helped them to arrive in the second homestay. And they would feel more confident navigating the second homestay with the language skills they've acquired and the experiences, the confidence they've acquired along the way. And then after the second homestay, there will be a student-led expedition, which is basically the opportunity for students to take over the ring of the program and really use their collective creativity and skill sets together to design a small section of the program to suit their interests and explore the area they want to explore with the support of the instructors. And then finally, we arrive at transference, which is the summary of the program. So the general structure of the programs will be the same. And then secondly, the structure during the homestay is roughly the same. So during the homestay, the students will have time to do language lessons and then doing independent study projects, whether it's a group or individual. Then I will talk a little bit more about the ISPs later. So, but the general structure during the homestay will be the same. And then the format of the language lessons are also the same. So the students will have an opportunity to dive into 2 to 3 hours of daily small group lessons provided by professional Mandarin teachers during the homestays. So this format, the language lessons won't happen on the travel days, but they'll happen during the homestay section of the program. And we do 1 urban homestay and 1 rural homestay. And the rural homestay is with ethnic minority community in China and with an Aboriginal community in Taiwan, which will provide some insight for students to experience not the mainstream culture, but some different types of culture also exist in the places that we travel to. Students will definitely have opportunities to explore the cities, rural areas, as well as nature. And later I will talk a little bit more about that. And also they will have opportunities to experience different lifestyles, socioeconomical backgrounds and cultures. And of course, plenty of opportunity for them to use and practice their language skills. And next slide, please. Yeah, so what are the differences between those two programs, China versus Taiwan? Generally, ruggedness, China is a little more rugged compared with Taiwan. You will see squat toilets more commonly used in China than Taiwan. And the public transportation in China will be slightly more rugged than Taiwan. And the form of Mandarin used, of course, a lot of you might already know that we use simplified Mandarin in China, but traditional Mandarin is used in Taiwan. But on our programs, we teach simplified Mandarin, both in China and Taiwan. And we focus on, the language lessons are focused on listening and speaking rather than reading and writing. So you don't need to worry too much about having to pick up the traditional characters if you are not learning it now, or vice versa. So definitely reading and writing isn't the big part of the language learning, because when you are in the environment which everyone speaks the language, we prioritize speaking and human interaction and to facilitate language learning in the more natural way rather than just focusing on reading and writing, which is a completely different skill. And we have independent study projects. So this is one of our 9 program components. On every Dragons program, we have 9 different components, and depending on where we do programming, and each program component will take slightly different weight. So on both China and Taiwan programs, students will do independent study projects. So for China, it's more independent. So it's more of an individual experience. So later on, I will talk a little bit more about that. So what does it, the ISP means basically the student can choose a subject or an area of interest, whether it's traditional culture or a subject they're interested in. And then we will try to find local mentors to support students on their journey of learning more about that. And in Taiwan, because of how the program is set up, so those experiences are not so much individual or independent. They look more like learning services in community. So it's more like a group experience. So we send students to work in the communities and to learn more about how certain issues are handled or dealt with in the community. So again, later on, I will talk a little bit more about how those two different things look like. All right, next slides. All right, and so I was saying that on every program we have, there are 9 different components, and homestay is one of the components on all of our programs. And as I was saying, on both China and Taiwan programs, the students will experience 2 homestays. So first, yeah, so the number of students in a homestay, we aim to place 1 student in 1 home. However, depending on the number of families who sign up to host our students in the summer, as well as the students' mental and physical needs and the student group dynamics, we sometimes place more than 1 student in 1 home. Students will have their own room in the homestay. If we place more than 1 student in a home, they might need to share a room. And students will have their will gather for language lessons and ISPs during the day and spend the evenings with their host families. So you can imagine actually the time spent with the host families are not the whole day, because during the day the students will have language lessons and other activities, and sometimes it's group activities. So the only time they actually get to spend with the host families are in the evenings. Every family is different, of course. Some have a lot of family members living together or living close by. Some just have one or two family members, and some families have children, some don't. Some have pets, some don't. And some have religious beliefs and some don't. Each family will be a window into what life is like in the place we live in, we're visiting. And we encourage our students to have an open mind about all different types of families and to learn from each other during their stay. Many parents ask how we find our host families and how we vet them. This is a very good and important question. Normally, the way we start working with the homestay community is by introduction from someone who already has a relationship with dragons, like a formal instructor or language teacher, someone who has a connection with us and understands what we do, and then would introduce us to a homestay community. And collaboration often starts with one family in the community, and then through recommendations by the families and that we've worked with and then trusted, we recruit more host families. So it's basically by word of mouth, by recommendation, that's how we found our host families. And after the families decided that they're interested in hosting our students, just like how you have a lot of questions about our host families, they also have a lot of questions about our students. So it's also a daunting and exciting experience for our host families too. So before we send the students to the family, we provide them with the training on our health and safety protocols, risk management tools, etc., so that they know what to do in different situations and they know what to expect when the students will arrive. And of course, our instructors will be on the ground and supporting the host families throughout this experience as well. All right, so that's some general information about our homestay experience. And
Shuier, can I just
yeah.
add, like, I
Mhm.
just like I think homestays are sometimes like the most anxiety inducing, or like students and parents are the most nervous about doing the homestay, but also our students say at the end of a program, like the homestay is absolutely like the most meaningful, the most special part, to really like have a window into what life is like, what it's like to actually, be part of a family in a country. And that's a really special opportunity and a really unique window into a country and a culture. And, they'll often report that that was like their favorite part of the program. And I met a student who did one of our programs in 2014 who still keeps in touch with his homestay family in Kunming. And I talked to another alumni of one of our programs recently too, who recently, this is a student in Nepal, but who recently went back to Nepal for her homestay sister's wedding. So not necessarily all of our homestays, will you build like that deeper relationship with families, but students really like, and families really do their best to treat our students like members of their family, and sometimes end up, having really special and tight bonds. So homestays are my favorite part of every program too, both doing them and seeing our students do them.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing, Madeleine. And actually, as you can see on the picture, so this is our homestay community in China, in Lijiang area. So this is a Naxi ethnic minority community, a village. And this is our host mom. So the story with this particular community is that they've been working with dragons for coming up to, I think, 15 years. So I joined Dragons in 2016. And when I first went to this community, their younger son was 1 year old. He was just born. And now he's in like second grade in primary school. And their older son, when Dragons started to work with this community, was 1 year old. So now he's fully grown teenager doing his thing. So it's really lovely to see how deep those connections are, and continuing this relationship continued through different groups of students, and like the story Madeleine shared. So it's very touching for sure. And next slide.
Yeah, and it's not uncommon to like walk into your homestay family's house and like, oh, see that they're wearing like a shirt for a U.S. sports team, or like have like pictures of other past homestay students that they posted in their house. So
Yeah, totally.
definitely wonderful
Yeah,
community members.
This other picture shows our homestay families in Taiwan, and this is a picture taken during the farewell party at the end of their hosting. So this mom and the daughter came to the party, and the students made some cards for them. So they were exchanging cards, and so we recorded this lovely moment for them. So yeah. All right, so next. So earlier I was talking about independent study project versus learning service, how those two differentiate and like how they show up in our programming in China and Taiwan. So independent study projects. So in our China program, students, again, have more opportunities to take on independent study projects. So short for ISPs. So you'll hear ISPs a lot in our webinars and conversations, emails, and so this is something to make a mark. So it means independent study projects, and a few popular independent study projects are Kung Fu's, calligraphies, cooking, tea ceremony, and Madeleine can speak to this a lot. Tea ceremony, it's her expertise and her hobby. Pottery making. So this is just a few examples. Basically, the student can choose any subject they're interested in, and then we will try to find a local mentor to teach them how to teach them on this subject. And if a few students end up choosing the same subject, and it will end up a group experience, but generally basically students can choose what they are interested in. So those are a few sort of more hands-on experiences, but there are other things that students can explore during their time in China or in Taiwan, which doesn't require sort of the physically be present in the place with a mentor, but something like exploring how sustainability work in a place or throughout the program, and comparing how those policies differ in the city or in the rural area. So, or the beauty standard is something else that one of our students did before, comparing how the beauty standards in China differ from the beauty standards in the West. And one student actually collected ghost stories along the places that we went for, and then basically made an illustration book about all the ghost stories in the different places that she traveled to. So there are different ways to engage with interesting subjects about the places that we're visiting and travel to. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a sort of mentor-student format. So there are other ways we can help students to explore the subject that they're interested in or the area they want to explore more in the place we travel to. And in Taiwan, we work closely with communities that we are staying in, and provide students with opportunities to learn about local community service. So our students have helped in the kitchen in Ilan, which prepares food for the elders in the community, and they've also helped local farmers in Zhangxibao during the cabbage harvesting season. So again, this is a different way for our students to engage deeply with what's going on the ground and with the places that we visit. So instead of an individual experience, we curate an experience which is a group experience for students to embark on and dive deeper into different sort of subjects and issues we can explore locally. So I think Madeleine just took us through the photos, and the one you are seeing now is students helping with the cabbage harvesting in Zhangxibao, which is a mountain community on the west coast of Taiwan, an Aboriginal community. The people in this community are all organic farmers, so they grow their own vegetables. Cabbage is one of their main crops. So here you can see our students helping them during the harvesting. And so this is a picture of our students helping in the communal kitchen in Yilan, in Taiwan on the east coast. So again, this is our homestay, one of our homestay communities, and the kitchen provides food for elders in the community. So students would go in, help with the cooking food, preparing cooking food, and then helping to serve the elders in the community the food that they prepared. So this is like give them a window into how communities organizes themselves, how they look after elders, and then again after all of those experiences, and we would do really thorough debriefs with the students to talk about like the taking aways and observations and takeaways of those experiences, and we also often draw comparison about their own life experiences back home and how does it differ or similar to the experiences they've had with similar situations back home. So another example. All right, so I guess another very important component for the China-Taiwan programs are language learning, of course. And as I said before, there will be about 2 to 3 hours daily small group lessons provided by professional Mandarin teachers during the time they spend in the homestays. Here you can see is a group of students with the language teacher. They are doing their lessons. And language teachers will assess students' language ability and divide them into 2 to 3 small groups for more detailed instruction. So as Madeleine was saying earlier, so we don't require students to have language ability or proficiency before they sign up. So if you are interested, you can sign up, and after you arrive, and the teachers will do a professional assessment of your ability and divide you into the group which is the best for you for tailored language lesson. And the lessons are also designed in line with the program activities and itinerary flow to facilitate easier communications for the students. So for example, if you're in the homestay, most of the times, the first lesson will be about what the students will experience in a homestay, like questions on how to say, what to say to a host family, like where is the toilet, how do I wash clothes, and very basic things like that. And as the experience deepen, then the teachers will tailor the language lesson to suit the needs of the students for their daily communication, and incorporate some interesting lessons to help them understand what is actually going on in the local area. It could be a lesson about organic farming in Yilan, or it could be a lesson about Naxi culture in Yunnan. So it depends on where the students are. Those lessons will be tailored to follow the program activities. And of course, there will be a lot of opportunities to use and practice the language that students are learning with the homestay families, with the instructors, and with other locals they meet along the way. And we call it an intensive program. Definitely from our end, we try our best to curate opportunities for students to practice and use their languages so that they get the most out of this in-country experience where everyone speaks the language they are learning. And of course, it takes two to tangle. So we also encourage students to take initiative and to really take this opportunity and use it to learn and create opportunities for themselves to interact and to speak to local people whenever they can. So yeah, this is generally how language learning will happen on our program. So the picture is showing, yeah, that's a picture taken in Taiwan, in Taidong, in the Aboriginal Taiwan community. The students are learning, doing their Mandarin lesson. And we can go to the next one. Again, this is a language teacher writing some instructions on the board in our homestay community in Lijiang in Yunnan. All right. Next one. So another thing everyone, like families and students, are concerned about are meals. So what do we eat on the program, and what the foods are like, and if my child, if myself is vegetarian or have special dietary needs, will those be satisfied, and will I be able to survive? So yes, of course, meals are often shared, and they are family-style meals where students will serve each other from large communal plates, like showing in this picture. They're actually making food here in this picture, making food themselves. But again, it's the family style, and you share foods from the communal plates. And whether it's in the restaurant or at home, it's generally the style how people eat. And it's easy to accommodate different dietary needs and care for food allergies on both China and Taiwan programs, as long as those needs and allergies are communicated with us ahead of time. If a student follows a more specific diet for religion or health reasons, you can reach out to us and we can assess if our program can accommodate for your dietary needs. But generally, vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, like nuts allergies, those are very common, and our host families are very used to accommodate food and dietary needs for our students, as long as we communicate with those information with them ahead of time. And in the restaurant, because you're sharing, so in a way it's easier, and you can eat from the plate of foods that you can eat. And if you're vegetarian, we definitely order a lot of vegetables, and if you eat everything, then you just go for everything that you eat. So there is benefit from this sharing style of eating. All right, so that's, I think, meals. I've covered things about meals. And of course, in the places we're going to, both China, on our China and Taiwan programs, the food is like abundance. We have abundance of food and access to vegetables and different types of meat. So we are not in shortage of any type of food or supply. So generally the diet will be very diverse on the programs. All right, so here you can see a bunch of students are sitting in the back of truck. So actually, this is the same group of students who just worked in the cabbage field. So they just came back from their shift from the cabbage field. So again, when we're on program, we try to use the local transportation, which is suitable for locals. So then we travel as locals do. So we encourage students to take public transportation wherever it's suitable, safe, and makes sense. But sometimes we do use private transportation during the program to get to another space. So again, this is our students using a more rugged form of transportation on their program. But after the program, everybody said this is the best experience. So they loved riding at the back of the pickup truck to go to the cabbage field. So different forms of transportation they can expect. All right. So the last thing I want to talk to you about is the opportunities to explore nature. I think this is again on everyone's mind, and a lot of students and families ask, oh, whether my kid or myself will have an opportunity to keep fit or be doing exercises on the programs. And yes, there'll be opportunities for you to exercise, and especially during the homestay times. And as you can see, there is a routine to follow. So it's easier to kind of create your own exercise routine and put in time for keeping fit. But for travel days, it's more difficult. But again, on top of all of those, and there is opportunities for you to be in nature, doing tracks, hikes, and explore the beauty that China and Taiwan has to offer. This is the picture of a group of students hiking in Taiwan. And then next we have two pictures of students hiking in China. I think this might have been Tiger Leaping Gorge in Yunnan. So neither China nor Taiwan program are trekking or hiking intensive. So there will be elements of trekking and hiking on those programs, but those aren't the focus of the China and Taiwan program. So yeah, you can expect to be exposed to the natural element on the program, but this won't be the whole focus of it. All right, I think that's everything that I have to share, and I'll hand it over back to Madeleine to talk a little bit more about actually, for this slide, the more specific informations we will be sharing once you enrolled with the program, and we'll be sharing those informations leading up to the program start date. So like health and safety and all of those other more practical kind of information will be shared with you before the program starts. So then Madeleine will
Yeah,
talk a little
I
bit
can take
more.
it from here to kind of wrap things up. But basically, yeah, this program preparation stuff will really come once you're enrolled in the program. That said, if you have questions about any of these things, basically big picture, you know, we're obviously trying to run as, you know, safe and meaningful programs as we can. And so there's a lot of emphasis put on health, safety, risk management. With vaccinations and medications, we are not medical professionals, so we don't require anything. We can't give specific recommendations, and we really recommend that you talk to a travel doctor or your doctor to determine the best plan for you going forward. We are here to support students with things like visas. For our China program, most students from the US will need to apply for a visa, and we can support with that. And then, yeah, closer to the start date of the program, we'll start providing not just general packing tips, but in fact, quite specific packing tips. So if you have questions about this, you're welcome to be in touch, but this webinar is meant to be a little bit more big picture, and all of this information comes upon enrollment, a lot of it coming in a course preparation manual that we will send you about 3 months before the program begins. So, and for those of you who are enrolled, I think Amina is trying to get that out to you all in the first or second week of March. So just a little bit about student outcomes on our program. You know, I think we've kind of like done surveys of students who have completed our programs, and, you know, like, what did you get from this? What did you learn? What did you come away from? And these are kind of like the things that students report. So, you know, I think with personal growth, like students are really also, they're learning and growing as individuals. And so really finding self-confidence and independence, self-awareness, perspective, critical thinking, decision-making, thinking about their own like education or career, life path for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of just personal growth that comes from being away from your family and what's familiar with to you, and kind of like having that time to be like, who am I as a person away from all the things that my clothes or you know, all the things at home that make me me. And so I think students really develop in that way, and, you know, grow with how they're thinking in their mindsets, and develop more comfort with the unknown and adaptability and discomfort. So cultural competency, like, absolutely, I think students on our programs hopefully are developing the confidence to travel on their own, and learning how to navigate new and potentially unexpected circumstances and adapt to things that are unfamiliar. And so that looks like cultural awareness and sensitivity, like skills, not just language skills for cross-cultural communication, but that cultural awareness, that ability to kind of navigate both kind of like the social fabric and like physically navigate in places, organizing travel on their own. Like, students do have that opportunity, like Shuier mentioned, during our program to organize some group travel at the very end. And so they're not only, you know, using the cultural and linguistic skills and logistical skills that they've learned on our program, but also they're thinking about what is responsible travel, what is ethical travel, and things like that. So leadership too, like we talked about, our programs are all pretty much 12 students and 3 instructors. And so when you're spending a lot of time a month with 12 students and 3 instructors, that really means that you're growing in leadership. We have a leadership rotation and a leadership curriculum built into our courses as well. And so that allows students to kind of like navigate their interpersonal dynamics within the group, find the strength to like use their voice or step back from using their voice for some students, and like finding out what are their strengths in a group setting and where can they shine. And so that looks like, you know, just developing these communication skills, problem solving, conflict resolution, collaboration, giving and receiving feedback, humility and just engagement with different perspectives, understanding of power or privilege, and yeah, like community organization, which I think is a super useful skill. And then finally, eye-opening experiences. Like students, yeah, travel is a really powerful teacher. And so Dragons programs help students clarify their values, explore their interests, and really gain skills to navigate their future with confidence. And I think this is like so important to me with my experience traveling. I grew up in the US and spent time a few years in China, and really to see, and otherwise to see people living differently and interacting with each other differently than in your bubble or in your home is really stepping out of your bubble and seeing things that are different is so valuable and so important. And so let me wiggle on to the next slide. Actually, I'll just say a couple things before this. I think these might be a little bit out of order, but if you're like, wow, I watched this webinar, sign me up for the China summer program or the Taiwan summer program. Two things I'll say. One is that our China program, the summer program, is down to, I think, its last 2 spaces. So if that is something that you're interested in, I would definitely encourage you to apply soon. Our Taiwan program is also down to limited space, but I don't think it's at its last 2 spaces just yet. So China, because we're really excited to be going back, is also a really popular program this year. The other thing I'll just explain briefly is next steps. So the way that applications work, I guess we have rolling admissions, so programs are kind of like first come, first serve. To apply, you complete a student application, a written application on our website. If you go to any page on our website, there will be a little button in the top right corner that says enroll now. And that written application, like sometimes students will get really stressed about it, but I would say like expect that to take you somewhere between like, I don't know, 25 to 35 minutes roughly to fill that out. We really just want to get a sense of who you are and why you want to travel with us. It's not a college essay. And then after that, we'll ask students to submit a program deposit, unless you're applying for financial aid. And I can explain more about that if folks have questions, but we'll ask students to submit a deposit, and that holds their space on the program. And then that also moves students into the interview process. And so our admissions team will then reach out with next steps. There is a roughly half-hour phone interview that we ask all applicants to do to just make sure it's the right program, it's the right time, it's the right place, and all of that. And then if you're accepted to the program, then we'll get you ready with packing lists, visa information, travel insurance, documentaries and books to read, and things like that. So if you are like, wow, that was really exciting, and I have a lot more questions, or I want to talk to someone who's done this program before, or a past student or a past parent, please reach out. I'll send a follow-up email, and you can just ask for that. We're happy to share information of folks who've done our programs before, as well as student travel blogs from past China and Taiwan programs if you want just a little more information or another reference to be like ready for that. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that is everything. And I will just go back to this slide here for questions. And so I know that was a big information download, a lot, yeah, just kind of shared with you, but Shuier and I and Tindy, I believe, are all here to help and answer any questions you have about China, Taiwan, Dragons, our programs in general. Yeah, this is the time for that. Feel free to put questions in the chat, or feel free to unmute yourself and communicate that way. I'm gonna stop the recording right now. I think just so people can feel comfortable asking questions. But feel free to start and I'll find a way to do that.
And also know that this won't be the last opportunity to for you to ask questions. If this is a lot of information.